All right, everyone. I am so excited to welcome Marsha Friedman today to offer this wonderful presentation on the cost of complacency. If you are not familiar with Marsha, you absolutely should be. She is an expert business coach who is known from helping professionals move from making a good living to having a good life, which I think is just amazing and fabulous because that's something we should all be talking about. Marsha is also a registered corporate coach, a master trainer, Myers-Briggs type indicator and disc facilitator, and also a distinguished Toastmaster. She's also the author of 2 books, Surviving and Thriving Despite the Drama, and also Job Search Mastery. So I'll try to pop links for those books into our chat throughout the talk. And so I want to welcome Marsha. We're super excited for your presentation today.
Well, thanks, Gina. I'm honored to be with you. So I'd like to go ahead and get us started. The cost of complacency. Back on November the 14th, my husband got a phone call. Bob, this is Phil. I'm calling you because your brother, Bill, fell off his motorcycle and we're taking him to the hospital. Phil, where are you guys? I know that Bill left to go to the Andes, but I don't know where you are. Is he okay? We're near a town called Wanhui in the northern Andes. We're taking him right away to go get x-rayed and we'll call you back later. That's all the information we had. Bob knew he was Bill's emergency contact, but that was it. What do you do when your loved one is thousands of miles away and in trouble? Bob knew that Bill had left for the Andes the week before. And he was on a motorcycle out in the open, getting to know the locals. But this is what happened. He hit a rough patch and flipped off his bike. Now, Bill's not a young man, 75, but he's young at heart. The next thing was 5 hours later when the second phone call came. Bob, this is Jorge. I'm with Bill. Bill cleared all the x-rays, didn't have any broken bones. That's great news. But when we put him in the vehicle to take him back to meet the group, he started sweating profusely and the left side of his face went slack. Oh no. Yeah, we're talking about a stroke. We took him back to Wanhui because that was the closest place to the clinic he was in. They can't handle stroke there. But we've got it all set up so that he's going to be taken by ambulance to Tarapoto, the next closest town. How long will it take him to get there? About 2 hours. Now, if any of you know anything about stroke, what's the first thing that you have to do? The most important thing when anybody has a stroke, it's get help as quickly as possible. This is hours after the stroke occurred that we got him safely to a private clinic in Tarapoto. Bill's journey looked like this. He went from Wanhui, he was there for a couple of hours. And oh, by the way, when you flip a motorcycle in Peru, you also have to have an alcohol test to make sure that there was no alcohol involved. So there was a trip to the police station before they had left Wanhui. Then there was the ambulance ride to Tarapoto. Now, in Tarapoto at the private clinic, they were able to get him stabilized. And on Monday, they decided that they needed to move him from Tarapoto, from that private clinic, to Lima. Now, they made arrangements on Tuesday for an air ambulance with a doctor and a nurse to come and pick him up. And Bill was supposed to go to the high-level neurology department at a major hospital in Lima. Yay, this would be the type of service that he needed, the type of medical care. By the time the air ambulance and the nurse and doctor arrived in Tarapoto to pick Bill up to transport him to Lima, the hospital in Lima said, we're not going to take him. Peru is a pay-to-play country. And because we did not know and did not have any of Bill's medical insurance information, that traveler's insurance that you buy when you go out of the country, we didn't have that detail. It was somewhere buried in Bill's belongings. So the hospital that ended up taking him in Lima was a community hospital where they were able to stabilize him. And they kept him stabilized for 2 weeks until we could get him moved back to Columbus, which is where his home is, by commercial flight with a medical escort. Now, when he arrived in Columbus, he was transported immediately by ambulance to the Wexner Medical Center. And we found out that day, now we're talking about 2+ weeks after the accident occurred, that Bill had an active brain bleed and clots in both his lungs and his legs. So what does it mean to be complacent? Because certainly that's what Bill was. This was not his first motorcycle trip around the world. He'd been motorcycling for years, since he was a kid. And he'd visited Thailand and he'd visited Japan and he'd been to Peru before. But what happened over time with all these trips he took? He became complacent and he didn't share with anyone exactly where he was traveling, exactly where he was staying, and certainly any information about his insurance. Now, complacency means being satisfied with the way things are and not wanting to change them. Certainly that defined Bill in this situation. Status quo. Book a trip with the same group with MotoQuest, head off, let people know what day you're leaving and what day you're coming home. That's all the family needed to know. That's all his emergency contact needed to know. But that wasn't the case. Now, in the workplace, you've probably heard this phrase before. That's how we've always done it. And this Dilbert cartoon really shows that. And what that demonstrates is complacency. So can you email me the test data? Nope. We don't have to give you any reasons why we're not going to do it, because that's the way we've always done it. And I'd like to challenge you. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms in just a moment to think about where complacency exists in your life or in your work. So where do you see complacency in your life or your work? Now we're going to put you in breakout rooms of 4 people, and you'll have 6 minutes to answer this question. And what I'd like you to do when you come back is select someone from your group who can share 1 or 2 of those examples of complacency in your life or in your work. So Gina, if you want to set up those breakout rooms.
I have got them set up. I'm going to go ahead and open them up for everyone. And there you go. Okay, just about everyone has joined their breakout sessions, and I will keep an eye on the clock and send a message in about 16 after, letting them know we're gonna wrap up. and I'll close them. And I popped your links to your books here, and I'm also popping in your website right there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course. That is one heck of a story about your brother-in-law. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what created this whole presentation.
Wow.
It doesn't have a completely happy ending.
Oh, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
Well, he's still alive, but not the same as what he was.
Was right. Oh my gosh. Do you need anything in the meantime? Are you good? Is there anything I can do for you?
Nope, I'm good.
You're good? Okay.
Wow, that was quick. I could have gone way longer on the breakout rooms.
Do you want me to leave them open longer? I mean, I can just leave them open a little bit longer.
Yeah, we had lost some people. I thought we had more.
I think this happens all the time. We'll have people who register and then want to see the recording, right? Because they know they're going to get the recording if they registered and they can't make the time or whatever. So that does happen. But I don't see anybody. And sometimes people join a little bit late.
No, Sharon.
So she will pop on. It might be late, but she will be here. She told me she's going to be here. She said it just might be. So I think the baby goes down between 12 and 12:30. So what we'll also do, hopefully, is we'll be able to have our social media coordinator create some clips from this and share it on social, where we'll be able to tag you and direct people to replay as well. But you're right, we did lose some people. People who signed off. Oh. I think that sometimes when people hear breakout rooms, they jump off because they get nervous. People who are really introverted.
But that's how you engage people.
I know. No, I know. I hear you.
Turn off the share for a second until we come back and break out, because then we can.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like there's one person who jumped off who I know who is super shy, very, very introverted. And I bet that I think breakout groups are great. And I think it just depends on, some people do that.
There we go. Oh.
I'm sorry that we don't have a bigger group today.
No worries. No worries.
So do you want me to give it a couple more minutes, or should I send a message?
Yeah, give them a couple more minutes.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Just before our session started, I had my back door open for my dogs to, I opened it up for them to go out, and a bird flew in my house. And I've never had that happen. I was like in a panic. I was like, oh my God.
Did you get it out?
I think it died. Like I feel really bad. Like it was like flying around and it kept banging into the windows and into the wall. And then it hit a window and fell behind my couch. And I took it outside, but I think I felt so
My,
terrible.
my daughter has on her front door, she's got a wreath.
Yeah.
There's a bird building a nest in the wreath.
Oh my
And
gosh.
her husband went out one day, didn't know about this, and got pecked or hit in the head by the bird. So now she's worried about the bird, exactly what you're saying, flying in the house.
House. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I have bird nests all the time, like on the back porch or on the front porch. And I'm like, I just leave them. I don't bother them, but I'm like, I don't know what does. But yeah, that poor bird, I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I was and I have 3 dogs. So I'm like, wait, the dogs really I think they just, because my one dog goes crazy about birds, but I think they were just freaked out. They were like, what's going on? Oh my goodness. Okay, how about if I send them like a, start to wrap up message? We'll be closing in a minute. What's that?
I'm laughing at Marsha's comment. INFP, I never feel perfect.
I know. I know. I wrote back to her and I said that. I love that. And I totally get it.
I'm ESFJ.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Huh?
What's that?
So Marsha sent me a private message about some people that we know in common.
Oh, that's so good. I'm going to go ahead and close these rooms up. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
I was going to say I'm an ENFP, but I wonder if that's changed because the last time I actually took the Myers-Briggs was probably 20 years ago.
It generally doesn't change.
No?
Because Myers-Briggs is your preferences. It's not who you are. It's different than some of the other. Yeah.
Interesting.
That generally does not change. You may manage yourself differently, but your preferences don't change.
Okay. We're heading back in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and Marsha, I'll let you turn it back over. Hope everyone enjoyed your breakout sessions.
So I'm wondering if we could have a representative from each of the breakout rooms share what some of the areas of complacency are in life and work for you. Somebody want to share from each of the groups?
I'm happy to share.
Go ahead, Carol.
I was in a group with Julianne, and we spoke about, complacency, and oftentimes it's not just, sitting back and being satisfied. A lot of times we're complacent because of other factors like, maybe we're lazy, maybe we're afraid. There are things that keep us from moving forward, even though we know we need to do something in our lives. And Julianne talked about her personal affairs and knowing that she needs to be less complacent and start addressing some of those. And I was talking about my professional complacency after getting through COVID and being stuck and what I wanted to find. And I think we agreed that no matter what it is, we both have valued these networking occasions to help us find the inner fortitude to fight through the things that are keeping us from moving forward and moving forward in the things we know we want to achieve.
Thank you. Well said. Okay, how about our other group? What were some of the areas in work or life that you found complacency?
Well, I think I can share for our group. I was with Laura and Brenda and Mary, and we talked about how sometimes life is about survival as opposed to analyzing what could be a better path long term. So it was discussed that in human resource practices, we just got to fill this position and move on to the next, as opposed to taking a hard look at the hiring and the position description, et cetera. In fundraising, it's following up with lapsed or lost donors, just as a, hey, did you forget to give this year, as opposed to re-engaging the donor. And then we talked about it on the personal level of, I'm sure many other women can relate. When you have kids and every day is just a means to an end and you just want to survive, there may be a more efficient way to, just for example, bedtime. But getting that new routine established and getting the children accustomed to that new routine is more exhausting than just dealing with it as is. So there's complacency there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So complacency runs through the gamut. It's not just in our personal lives, but it crosses over into our work lives and everywhere else. And yes, that whole scenario of feeling like you're on that carousel, I often use that analogy because the ride on a carousel is so relaxing, right? If you get on a merry-go-round, it's not a really fast ride. It goes up and down. It's very relaxing. But if you think about that in terms of our lives, sometimes we feel like we're stuck on a carousel because we get up every morning, we take a shower, we get dressed, we go to work, we come home, we make dinner, we watch TV or read the newspaper, relax for a little while, we go to bed and we start it all over again. And so where's the time and the energy that you need to be able to address some of those individual changes, personal growth, or changes within your home, or looking at your career? So there's many areas because of that feeling of being on that carousel day after day after day that we don't move forward. So I'd like to go back to the presentation now and talk more about areas of complacency. Let me just get my presentation back up. So career complacency, and this, I believe this came up in that first group talked about this. When you, and I think this picture says a lot. So if you'd like to take a moment and look at this picture and kind of, and talk about, what does career complacency look like? How can you identify that for yourself or others? So if you want to put anything in the chat about that, you're welcome to do that. One area of career complacency that I can think of, because I'm a facilitator for a job search group, is not keeping your LinkedIn up to date, which is so important these days. But there are many other areas of career complacency. You're not putting forward your best. You're not staying up to date. You're not looking at new opportunities. And again, I think this picture really does say 1,000 words about this. How about building your network? Many times, and again, I work with job seekers, and so many times we find that job seekers who have been with one organization for a long time are not doing anything to build their network outside of the people that they work with. And that's a really critical thing to do in terms of your career opportunities. And how about sharing ideas? Many of us have many ideas about what's going on within the workplace. And this goes back to that Dilbert cartoon about why change anything? So that staying in one place and doing the same thing over and over and over again becomes an area of complacency or contentment. And how about life complacency? Anybody want to unmute themselves and tell me what this gentleman's picture looks like? What does that tell you about him?
Pure apathy.
Apathy, absolutely. What else do you see in that?
Just being lost and maybe not knowing how to take a step forward.
Yep. Confusion, lost, boredom.
Unhappiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feeling bored or stuck, not moving yourself forward, not doing anything in terms of personal growth or development. So whether that's for your career or whether that is spiritual growth, just not growing. Lifeless and listless. I think that it shows in this picture of that boredom and that lifelessness. Not wanting to take any risks and not connecting. I think this is something that really came through during the last 2 years of the pandemic, not connecting with friends and family and how difficult that can be. And if you're not willing to take risks, you might be taking unnecessary risks. I think either of these two things can happen when you're complacent in life. And I want to share 3 areas that I think are the most frequent areas of complacency. And the first one being estate planning. Now, depending on your age category or your family situation, estate planning can be a really difficult subject. But I'm here to share with you that it's critically important. I shared a little bit about Bill's story and that my husband is his emergency contact. But what I haven't shared is that we didn't have the information we needed. Bob does have the medical power of attorney and the healthcare power of attorney, medical power of attorney and general power of attorney that he needed. But he didn't have any specific information. So naming someone your emergency contact is not enough. And we all go to the doctor and we all fill out the forms that say, who's your emergency contact? And you write down your husband or your spouse or your daughter or son, and you put down the name and you put down a phone number and you walk away. But I'm here to tell you that you need more information than that. I'm the emergency contact for a close friend of mine. And I've told her that one of the things I need to have is copies of her medical insurance cards and also her list of medications. And she says, but Marsha, it's on my chart. And I said, but what if something happens to you and you don't have access, or the doctors don't have access to your my chart information? So these things, especially as we age or our parents age, are critically important and important conversations to have. Now, when my father had passed away, my mother had said to me, Marsha, I want you to be my executrix of my estate. Great, Mom. Can I see your will and your trust documents? When I got those documents, I found out that I was not listed as the executor of her estate. So we had to have her will and her trust rewritten so that her wishes were followed. Now, a second area of frequent complacency is the area of our personal finances. I'm guessing there may be a few people on here who either work in this area or can relate to this. It's very easy just to let this go. I don't know anything about finances. I don't understand them. I don't want to deal with that right now. But down the road, these things are very important. How you invest your money, what donations you're going to make, how you're saving for your retirement, all critically important areas to address. And today, there are many people who work in the area of financial planning and are really there to help you, even if you yourself don't understand the ins and outs of the finance world. And how about this third area, self-care? I'll start that diet tomorrow. I'll go to the fitness center tomorrow. I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm so healthy. Everything's okay with me. And the last one is mental health. And unfortunately, I lost a brother to suicide during the pandemic because he had some mental health issues that he could not get the support that he needed to get through the pandemic. And he found his own way out. So all of these areas of self-care, diet, fitness, medical care, and certainly mental health are critically important. And you don't want to put those things off. Well, there's always tomorrow. So maybe tomorrow I'll deal with these things. Maybe tomorrow I'll start the diet. Maybe tomorrow I'll get the information to my emergency contact. Maybe tomorrow I'll write a will. Maybe tomorrow could be coming sooner than you think. So I'm going to ask you to go back into your breakout rooms. And I'd like to talk about what motivation do you need to move beyond complacency? What one step would get you moving forward? So Gina, if you would.
Yes, I'll go ahead and open those rooms right now.
Thank you.
Marsha, I am so sorry about your brother.
Oh, yeah. Long
That's
story.
devastating.
Yeah.
I'm going to step away to the restroom just really quickly, and I'll be right back.
No worries.
Okay. Marsha, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you?
No, good,
You're good? Okay.
good, good. Get this to stop the share for a second. Didn't want to go to that next. There we go. Wonder what happened to Marsha?
Yeah, she might just be
Listening.
listening in. Yeah. It's a little bit of a nice day today, huh?
Yeah, I was hoping to get a walk in this afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. This weather has just been so up and down. I get the worst, like they're like migraines, but sinus headaches from from the changes constantly. And I'm really looking forward to the nice weather. I gotta tell you.
I hear you. I'm gonna get out in my garden.
Now, do you plant fruits and vegetables, or what do you plant?
No, I have just perennials
Perennials. Okay.
and
Okay.
herbs. I have an herb garden actually that's in a raised bed, a plastic raised bed
Yeah.
that I found that I can take it in the wintertime, move it into the garage,
Yeah.
and then take it back out in the spring. And many of those herbs, not all, the thyme and the oregano and sage all come back.
Really?
I don't water it. I just put it in the garage, let it sit fallow all winter long, take it back out in the spring. They all come back up.
I have to tell you, I've never been one to work in my yard. Like I've just never been that person. And then during the pandemic, like when it first started, I spent a whole year outside working in the yard. My next door neighbors they're in their late 80s now. And they are in their yard all day,
All
every day. I mean, they have the perfect yard, right? And it became like a competition. Like I got to keep up. And then I got
Gina, I
really,
did the same thing.
really,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yes. I have a neighbor with the perfect yard. She
yeah.
spends lots of time out in her yard. She's actually the same age as I am, but she's lived in this development longer. Perfect, wonderful yard, right? So of course I had to start working on mine, and I have a hill behind my house that no one's ever done anything to. And so I took over the hill. It's actually between my other neighbor's yard and mine, because I'm in a cluster homes. And she said, oh yeah, go ahead. She's lived there way longer than I have, the one on the other side. And it's gorgeous. I'll have to send you a picture because
Oh,
it's
wow.
really pretty, and it's all perennial. It's all
wow.
perennials. And all I do is move things around and
Yeah.
trim and adjust. And yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am still learning, but I
Mhm.
like my whole house is just, the yard is so different now. And I just have to like growing up, I always thought like I could never have a house with a yard like that or whatever. So I take like such pride in it now. Like I have daffodils coming up right now, which I'm all excited about, just to see some yellow, and yeah, I'm excited to get back
I
out.
planted some bulbs last summer or last fall that I had bought, and I haven't looked to see if any of those are coming up yet.
Oh,
They're
really?
spring bulbs. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly when they come up.
Yeah, mine are already coming up. I have deer. We have a lot of deer. So I can only plant certain things, and and even things that are supposed to be like deer
Deer-proof,
resistant.
forget it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I use deer spray sometimes, but even that doesn't really work. So I just do my best. And then when I come out, like I'll find things just ripped out of the ground.
Mhm.
Fix it. But they got to eat too. That's so funny. Okay, whatever you think, you tell me.
When do we put them in?
It's probably been about 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and give them one more minute and then we'll close.
Okay. Yeah, I love the butterfly bush. I have a few of those in my yard.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, love those. Oh my gosh. And those are deer resistant. They don't come near them. They don't like them.
I planted 3 of them last year.
Did you?
And the week I had planted them,
Yeah.
that they came through and they did all the the washing, they cleaned
Yeah.
the outside the houses.
Yeah.
And they mixed the mixture wrong and had too much chlorine in it, and it killed a bunch
Oh,
of the
no.
stuff. Yeah, so it was a long, yeah. It ended up only killing a few, I only had to replace the brand new butterfly bushes in the end, but there were a lot of other things that were impacted.
Oh, that's miserable.
Not fun.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, power washing. But the owner was really nice. He came out like the next day and he looked all over, and yeah, it just got worse. It burned the bushes. It burns all the leaves off stuff.
Oh, that's miserable.
Yeah.
That's miserable.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I have all kinds of crazy things. When my one tree is growing into my roof, I got to get somebody to come out and clip it. Okay, I'm going to click close all rooms. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Marsha. Hope you enjoyed your groups.
So I'm wondering if each of our groups could share some of the ways that you can move past complacency. What would motivate you to move past complacency?
I can share for our group.
Thanks, Laura.
Sure. So we had talked about setting deadlines and having somebody in our lives that can hold us accountable towards meeting those goals. And then also, this was something that I had shared that, just giving ourselves permission to make ourselves a priority and our own needs a priority. So often we're focused on, our work lives and taking care of our families and friends. And, we don't leave a whole lot of time and energy for ourselves and our personal needs.
Thanks, Laura. Those are great. How about from the other group?
There we go. I think in terms of finding the one thing that would motivate you, I think the answer is it depends on what it is that you're tackling, right? And all of the 3 main areas you spoke to, require different things. Estate planning and finances. We both acknowledge the importance of needing to tackle those things. And a lot of times it's just management, organization. How do you tackle that? And Julianne suggested, trying to schedule it so that, you force yourself, so to speak, to do one thing and try it, and then perhaps reward yourself, setting up, your own little rewards for accomplishing the goals. You can't do it all at once, but if you break it down and set up some timelines for yourself, it's a little more achievable. And for self-care, even just trying something, I found that, just do one thing, just try. If you don't like it, you can always try something else. We talked about, the challenge of shutting your head off, because that gets in the way of doing any of these things. Having a group like this to speak to, having an accountability partner, that all those things can help you to start to break through and achieve the goals that you're trying to set out to accomplish.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. That's excellent conversation, because it is so important. And you use the term accountability partner, and I want to make sure everybody understands that. An accountability partner can be somebody who's a friend. It could be a spouse. It could be a colleague. Doesn't even have to be working on the same thing you are. Just somebody who is going to be there to check up on you and see if you're moving forward. You can just let someone know, hey, I'm working on this one thing. I'm going to be making sure that I get all my financial planning done in the next 3 months. I just want you to make sure that I do that. So can I check in with you? Just if you would just give me an email or send me a note once a month, then I can let you know how I'm doing. They don't have to know the specifics, just someone who's going to make sure that you're moving forward. And they can also be somebody who you bounce ideas off of if perhaps you've bitten off too big of a chunk and you need to break it down. Carol mentioned this as well, taking a task that you don't want to try and eat the whole elephant, the whole topic of, say, financial planning. There's a lot of different pieces to that. So break it down into manageable bits so that you can take care of it. And I think the other thing, and I know this has worked for me many times in my life, is what's a priority at this moment in time? So unfortunately, my book called Surviving and Thriving Despite the Drama was written because my life has been filled with a lot of dramas. So one of those, unfortunately, was that I lost my second husband to a massive heart attack very, very suddenly. And we had never talked about what we wanted done in terms of our own, funeral arrangements and things like that. But fortunately, or really unfortunately, about a year before my husband passed away, I lost my best friend. And my husband and I were at the cemetery and we said, wow, what a pretty site that our friend was buried in. And we talked at that moment, this is 10 months before my husband passed away, about we should buy the burial plot right next to her. But we didn't. We're like most people, you talk about things, but you don't always follow through. So 10 months later, when he passed away, I at least knew where he wanted to be buried and was able to use that one conversation as the basis for planning his funeral. So sometimes it's happenstance, sometimes it's priority. But figure out for yourself where those areas of complacency are and what's the one step that you can use to move forward. Now, I've talked a lot about my brother-in-law, Bill. And what I really didn't share with you is he was supposed to be gone from November 7th until November 21st. So he'd be home for Thanksgiving. As it happens, when he had the accident on the 14th, and I talked about he moved from Juan Huy to Tarapoto and then finally to a hospital in Lima. He was in Lima for over 2 weeks in a hospital that just really housed him. We didn't get him back into the United States, back to Columbus, until the evening of November 30th. So 2 full weeks after the accident had occurred, we got him home. And he went straight into another hospital, and he was there for another 3 weeks. And after he left Wexner, he went to intensive rehab. And after he left intensive rehab, he went to step-down rehab. Now, Bill did not set foot back in his own home until the 1st of February. His goal was to get home before his birthday, which was February 8th. And he did that. And you may also be wondering, what condition is Bill in today? Well, he's recovered from his stroke to a certain extent, but he has a long-term condition called left side neglect, which means that the stroke impacted the left side of his body. And although he can see out of his left eye, he can't process what he's taken in. And he can use his left hand, but he doesn't have a lot of hot and cold sensation in his hand. He can walk, he can use his left foot, but he often walks out of his shoes on the left side. So he's been told he will never drive again. So here we have a man who was relatively healthy and very active, because at 75, he was off running around the world on a motorcycle, who has now been, his life has changed. His life has really changed. So my message to all of you is, don't wait until the unexpected happens, because you have the time now to make changes, to share information, to do what you need to protect yourself and your loved ones. So if you want more information about what it means to be an emergency contact and what information your emergency contact really needs, on my website, one of the other things that is there is a blog post called "Reading This Could Save Your Life." All right. I want to take us back into the presentation. A couple more things to share with you. So as I said, don't wait until an emergency happens. Make sure that you do what you need to do to take care of yourself and your loved ones, because your future could really depend on it, not just your life, but also your future. So I'd like you to take a moment now and in the chat, share any takeaways that you have from this presentation. What are you taking away from here that's going to help you moving forward away from complacency? And while you're adding that to the chat, I'm going to share a couple of links for you. I think these are already in the chat as well. My contact information, and I have a worksheet on there. If you go into my resources page, if one of the issues in your life is about figuring out where the toxicity comes from in your life, I have a worksheet called Detox, which lets you look at where's the positivity and where's the negativity coming in your life, and how do you deal with people who might be bringing some toxic relationships into your life. And there's another worksheet, and this is especially helpful for people who are working through changes in complacency, is how to ask for help, because many of us have issues with knowing how to ask for help, especially if you're dealing with things that are difficult. So feel free to go to my website and grab those two worksheets, see where they can help you.